I've spent the entire fall on the road with the Outkick bus tour, from Fayetteville, Arkansas to Gainesville, Florida, from Aggieland to the Clemson-Georgia opener in Charlotte, and I've had an incredible time meeting many of you during September, October and November dates on SEC campuses. We saw every team play but South Carolina and Missouri and visited every SEC state but Kentucky and Missouri. We'll be in Atlanta doing a live Outkick show at Stat Sports Bar on Saturday afternoon before the SEC title game kickoff, but as our season on the road comes to a close, I want to thank everyone affiliated with our Outkick bus tour. They did a phenomenal job putting it all together and they were a great joy to be with all fall. One of the real joys of college football in general, particularly in the South, is the family connection that underscores all the games. I've had my boys with me in Nashville, Oxford, Tuscaloosa, Auburn, and Knoxville, and they're at the perfect ages right now where they will remember all these games for the rest of their lives.
Yesterday with my 11-year-old in Auburn was truly a remarkable experience. I know I'll remember it for the rest of my life, and I know he will too. I hope all of you have also had fantastic fall football seasons with your family and friends. Okay, let's dive into the Thanksgiving weekend chaos. Point 1. The conference title game matchups are wild. Oklahoma State quarterback Spencer Sanders looks for a receiver on the first half of the team's NCAA college football game against Oklahoma, Saturday, November 27, 2021, in Stillwater, Oklahoma, outside of Georgia versus Alabama, which almost everyone could have forecast. If you had the ACC title game of Wake Forest versus Pittsburgh, the Big Ten title game of Michigan versus Iowa, the Big 12 title game of Oklahoma State versus Baylor, or the Pac-12 title game of Utah versus Oregon, take a bout. This year has been fantastic for college football because we've reached the conference title games with an entirely new collection of teams competing for playoff spots. For the past several years, the biggest criticism of college football has been that the same teams play for titles every year. But this year has mostly blown up that criticism because this year's playoff race is wide open and most of the contenders are new. If the season were ending today, here's what my playoff would look like. 1. Georgia 2. Michigan 3. Alabama 4. Oklahoma State in 5th place, 5. Cincinnati. But we've got a ton to still happen on conference title weekend. So let's break down all the permutations and then discuss the games that were played over Thanksgiving weekend. 2. What's your most likely playoff foursome? The most likely playoff foursome, I think, is this one. Georgia 2. Michigan 3. Oklahoma State 4. Cincinnati. But that's presuming all the conference title game favorites win, which almost never happens. So how many teams are still alive for a playoff berth? I think the number is 11. Now let me explain why. 3. Here are my 11 teams still alive for the playoff. The SEC has Georgia and Alabama still alive for playoff berths, with Georgia as the only team with a spot locked up. The Big Ten has 2 teams, Iowa and Michigan. The Big 12 has 2 teams, Oklahoma State and Baylor. The Pac-12 has 1 team, Oregon, Pittsburgh, or Wake Forest, each of whom would finish 11-2 as ACC champs, could also be in the mix if enough chaos occurred. Then you add Notre Dame and Cincinnati for a grand total of 11 teams with a chance to make the playoff. I'm going to break each of these scenarios down in a moment, but first, here's the ultimate chaos scenario that college football fans love to contemplate so much. What happens if Georgia beats Alabama, Iowa beats Michigan, Baylor beats Oklahoma State, Utah beats Oregon, and Houston beats Cincinnati? Your only playoff lock team would be Georgia as the number 1 seed. Then you'd have 3 playoff teams to select, with 11-2 Iowa as the Big Ten champ, 11-2 Baylor as the Big 12 champ, 10-3 Utah as the Pac-12 champ. You'd have an 11-2 ACC champ in Pittsburgh or Wake Forest, 11-2 SEC championship game loser Alabama, 11-2 Big Ten title game loser Michigan, 12-1 Cincinnati, and 11-1 Notre Dame. Who gets in then? I honestly have no idea. My best guess would be 1. Georgia 2. 11-2 Baylor 3. 11-2 Iowa 4. 11-2 Pittsburgh or Wake Forest, 11-2 Alabama, 11-2 Michigan, or 12-1 Cincinnati. This is just my best guess, but I think the playoff committee would take the 11-2 ACC champion to complete the playoff. The committee wouldn't be picking the best 4 teams here, but they'd argue they were picking the most deserving teams. And this would also keep them from putting Alabama against Georgia in an immediate rematch game, which doesn't seem very fair to Georgia. But this is just my best guess. As you can see, there's a great deal of chaos still out there. Point 4. Okay, let's make it simple. Who is in if they win? Georgia wide receiver Jermaine Burton makes a catch for a touchdown as Georgia Tech defensive back Miles Sims defends in the first half of an NCAA college football game Saturday, November 27, 2021, in Atlanta. Georgia is in win or lose. With a win, the Bulldogs are the 1 seed. With a loss to Alabama, Georgia might drop to number 2 overall, although I think you could make an argument Georgia would still deserve the 1 seed even if they lost to Alabama. Either way, however, Georgia is, at worst, the number 2 seed in the playoff at this point. The remaining 3 teams that are in with a win are Alabama, Michigan, and, I think, Oklahoma State. That's the only trio that I believe is guaranteed to be in the playoff if they win their title games. Cincinnati, I believe, would be the next team up, but that's complicated a bit because the teams that beat Michigan and Oklahoma State, Iowa, and Baylor would also have strong playoff claims too. But ultimately my playoff rankings entering the final week of the season would look like this one. Georgia 2. Michigan 3. Alabama 4. Oklahoma State 5. Cincinnati 6. Notre Dame. After Notre Dame, who was in the clubhouse with a completed season at 11-1, there would be a bunch of 2-loss teams angling for playoff consideration. FanDuel, by the way, makes Georgia a -220 favorite to win the national title. And then no one else is particularly close to the Bulldogs. Alabama +750, Michigan 10-1, Oklahoma State 12-1, Cincinnati 12-1, Notre Dame 25-1, Iowa 100-1, Pittsburgh 100-1, Wake Forest 150-1, Utah 200-1, Oregon 200-1, Baylor 200-1. The only team FanDuel has odds on that I didn't put in my playoff contenders is Utah at 200-1. I just don't see how a 10-3 Utah team is going to make the playoff no matter what happens above them. Okay, now on to the games themselves. Point 5. Michigan finally beats Ohio State. This was an absolutely monster win for Jim Harbaugh.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.